A person who loves to walk will always walk further than someone who is walking towards a destination. Hi, I'm James, and this is my take on reality. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how Chantel and Pedro could have saved their marriage. Let's get it. To start, the people who support Chantel, they always cite things like she paid for him to get a green card. When he got here, she put out a lot of money. She put in a lot of effort. She was paying to go down to visit him. She was paying so that she could see him and bring him back up here. And when he got here, she was paying for everything even though she was in school. And I agree with that. I think that that is a tremendous act and a tremendous gesture to start any relationship in. You're trying to build something with someone. Now, where things went wrong, I think that the big question that you have to ask is not necessarily what you're doing, because there's a lot of things that you could do that you could point to and say, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I did this. But the question isn't what you did, but more to the point, why are you doing it? When we look at the why, now she brought him here, she got him the green card, she paid for everything, she helped him with his career, and she helped to give him opportunities. Why? Because she loved him. That's great. But when you look at a lot of the things that she started to do during the course of this season, and I've seen people on different boards and on different videos make the argument that she was doing all these things and he wasn't appreciative. My question is that what was she doing? My question is, why was she doing it? For instance, when she went down to the Dominican Republic, why was she doing that? Did she go down to the Dominican Republic because she genuinely wanted to have a relationship with Pedro's family? She wanted to genuinely build a relationship back with Pedro's mother? No, she went down to the Dominican Republic because at some point he said, hey, I tried with your family, but you didn't try with mine. So she used that as a tactic to try to manipulate the situation so that she could point to that and say, hey, I did this and I put this effort in, so therefore you have to appreciate me. It's not what you did, it's why you did it. That's what creates the problem. When she says, I want to have a conversation with you, I want to talk with you, I want to have open communication, and and he comes home on the final day when he asks for the divorce, the first thing she says is, well, how was work? But the question isn't whether you asked. That's a nice gesture. But the real question is, why did you ask? Did you ask because you genuinely want to know how his day was? Because you're trying to support him? Hey, let me hear about what's happening with you. Because I'm genuinely interested in what it is you have to say. Because I'm genuinely interested in how your day went and how your career is progressing. This is something you're excited about. Let me hear about that thing. Because that's what real support is. Real support isn't, hey, I wake up in the morning and I send you a text message, because that's what boyfriends do. When you come home from work, how was your day? Because that's what girlfriends do. You do these things because you genuinely care about them. You don't create like a little chalkboard or tick board where you can say, hey, remember that time I made you dinner? Hey, remember that time I did your laundry? Hey, remember that time I cleaned the house? Hey, remember that time I cut the grass? Like, if you're doing it so that you can create some kind of scoring mechanism, then you are already losing. The big problem that Chantel and Pedro have always had is that they have a lack of communication. Now, there is a misnomer that I think Chantel has when it comes to communication, and even Pedro to a point. I'm going to put it on his feet as well, lay it at his feet as well. One of the big problems they have is that everybody is talking, but nobody is listening. The big part of communication, hell, the big part of debating and arguing is actually listening to what the other person has to say so that you can talk about and address each one of their points, the points they're making. If I don't understand what it is you're going through, how am I going to empathize with your situation? Or how am I going to correct your misunderstanding? So in Chantel's case, and even in Pedro's case, they already have pretty much the script that they have laid out and what it is they want to talk about. And when Chantel talks to Pedro, it's basically, I want my marriage to work. I want my husband to do X, Y, Z. And you can go through the season and watch time and time and time again where she says something close to that iteration. Now, here's the problem. She also said, I'm mad at him because he doesn't empathize with what I want. Well, in order for him to empathize, he actually has to understand what it is you're talking about. And he has to listen to you. And the best way sometimes to get somebody to listen to you is for you to listen to them. Because if you say what you want and then he addresses what it is you said, and then he goes to say, well, here's how I feel, and you cut him off, then now all of a sudden he's not listening to you either, because he's focused on trying to say his piece. Especially if you have a situation where every time you guys get to talking, as soon as he goes to say how he feels and is converse to what your position is, you jump up and run off. Then that's not communication, and it's certainly not effective communication. And you guys aren't talking at all. You're just telling them, I want my marriage to work. You jump up and you run off. That's not making your marriage work. The other part is, I hear a lot from Chantel and Pedro where they talk about how things were when they first met, when they were first going out. They were so attracted to each other. They were so chemically bound to one another. And it was just the chemistry was there and all that good stuff. That's great. However, unless you have a time machine in your backyard, how somebody was when you first met them is irrelevant. Every day, every moment, that person is changing. The person you are in year 1 is going to be completely different than the person you are in year 5. And it's going to be worlds apart in 10, 15, 20 years. Hell, if you're at 40 years old and you had a time machine and you went back and met yourself at 20, you would be unrecognizable, even to you, on both ends. The 20-year-old is going to say, I can't believe I got that old and lame. And the 40-year-old is going to say, I can't believe I was that young and dumb. It's just that when you grow and you develop, you're going to become a different person. And if you're not communicating effectively, then as these changes start to happen and as this development starts to occur, then you won't be along for the ride. You'll get left behind, and all you'll be reflecting on is, I remember when. Now, anybody who's ever had a relationship can understand that the relationship as you remembered it is always better than the relationship actually was. For instance, if you break up with your boyfriend or you break up with your girlfriend, 2-3 years go by and you see them in the mall and they look good, or I guess nobody goes to the mall anymore, or you see them on Facebook and they looking fit and trim and sexy and stuff, you start thinking, wow, our relationship was amazing. Why did we break up? And you just kind of forget that, yeah, she was banging the whole softball team at the old abandoned hospital. And that's what happens with a lot of these relationships and how you remember them. So when she says or he says, I remember when we first met and this is how we were and it was so great and so wonderful, I kind of asked that question, was it really great and wonderful, or was it just earlier on in your relationship? And to be honest with you, if you really think about it, early in a relationship, you're willing to tolerate so much more than you are and say 5 or 10 years in. After you become adjusted and you get used to that other person and it's not new anymore, then you're kind of not just going along with anything that they say or do. And everything is viewed in a different way. One of the things that I noticed about Chantel that she said that I thought was kind of interesting. She said, I don't come from a broken home. My parents are still together. I don't have experience with this. The truth of the matter is, being around successful people does not make you successful. Just because your parents have had a relationship where they've been together for all your life, which is, I guess, close to 30 to 40 years they've been together and married, that doesn't mean that you seeing it and witnessing it puts you in a better position to just automatically have a great relationship. You have to look at their relationship for what it is. For instance, you can see by Chantel's father and Chantel's mother, the father just kind of gives in a lot to what the mother wants. So she'll come in and 1 minute she's doing Tai Chi, next minute she's, a koi fisher woman, and next minute she's a sculptor, next minute she's an artist, next minute she's a musician, and she has all this stuff going on, and the whole time he's just sitting there, yeah, she's always like that stuff, yeah, she's great, and he can't even finish a thought or make a position without her kind of chiming in, cutting him off, and saying what she wants, and he just agree with it. Now, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying that this is how the dynamic of their relationship has evolved, and this is how their relationship works. And if it works for them, hey, it works for me. But the truth of the matter is that you can't expect to have that same situation in your relationships. So what makes their relationship successful might not be able to be translatable to you, especially if the man that you want to have a relationship with is not the same as your father. If he's not just going to go along with everything you want because you want to do it, then your relationship and your marriage is going to fail. That's my take. I'm James. This is my take on reality. If you guys are enjoying the channel, I'd appreciate if you consider subscribing. I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life